So I just did something that is, how to say, there would be a better strategy in a longer concert, because I took like so many things from the buffet and just had them, linked in a long chain. So, how to say, the drama of an improvisation could take much longer with one technique and could be more, how to say, there would be more space. I take this as a positive speechlessness.
How did you do that?
Yeah, which part? What interests you more? I know that we advertised flute beatboxing and circular breathing. And circular breathing is something that makes you go pretty internal and concerned with yourself. So maybe we should do that in the last half hour and first see if there's other stuff.
What was the beginning part where you had it sounded almost like whistling? There were two melodies going
Yes.
on between the key clicks and...
Yes. Some of it, I think most of them were ghost tones, and that's almost the same as whistle tones. Have you all played whistle tones before?
No.
Yeah, a little bit? Okay, no? Okay. The best way to start, if you never have done a whistle tone, or maybe I should just tell you, whistle tones are pretty fragile notes, and their pitch is quite limited, and ghost tones is almost like whistling. And let's start with a harder technique, which would be the whistle tones. For first you should be content with a certain amount of random. If any of them come out, it's like music from the gods. So let's just see. Would you be so kind to play a soft F for me, a low F, just like that. Octave lower, yes. Okay, that's nice. That's nice and soft. A little bit longer. Okay, now we will go down the scale. I will make you play an E now, and please take half as much air. I'll say this again: half as much air, but behave as if you were playing the flute normally. Go to the E.
Oh.
Okay, you go to the next key and you take half as much again. Less air, less air, less air. Okay, imagine you had one of those little pigeon feathers that you're not allowed to touch, right? And you had this on your hand, and all you wanted to do was move the feather without it blowing it away. Just you could annoy a beetle on your hand.
I can hear it though.
What's the word for that? If it's not blowing anymore, but what is it? There's a word for that, isn't there?
It's just breathing into your hand.
Yeah, it's like very, very slow. Make a continuous longer sound on the D. We have a winner.
Oh.
Okay, that's a good way to teach it. Less and less air, and there's some strategies. You could form an E in your mouth, and you could play around with your tongue. Some people go for the R, for this R that you have in your language. R. And okay, now you're using a lot of pressure. Maybe a little bit less pressure. When it sounds like an unclosed car window, then probably you have a lot of pressure. Yes, you see, that's a very high one. So maybe for you, the nicest thing to do now would be to take an adhesive tape that is very easy to remove and tape shut your pinky keys, because then you would only have to finger a D, and then you would have the lowest note on your flute, and then just explore all of them. Like, if I go somewhere, I'm in the hotel, it's 12 o'clock in the night, I have traveled the whole day, that's my thing. That's what I'm going to do. If people come into the workshop, I didn't have time to warm up, everybody's taking their flutes out, that's what I do. I play these things. Your embouchure is like for high notes, but your airspeed is so incredibly slow as possible. Right? Okay, that's whistle tones. you could take all your high keys and all your high fingerings and play the original pitch that is supposed to come out there. And that's a very nice exercise. So what I do is I play the notes so I know what I'm looking for. I use exactly the same embouchure, and then I use as little air as I can. If it doesn't work, maybe turn out. And I'm talking about, like, if this was a watch, I'm talking about like about 2 minutes or something. 2 minutes, right? This would be quarter of an hour. So just very little, and you could make an E, and you could play around with your tongue, and then the world of whistle tones are yours. So, ghost tones. Can you whistle? Like, okay, don't for now do the give your aunt a kiss mouth. Okay, don't go like this, but try to be as flute embouchure as possible. And but what I hear from you is your mouth is in the right position for a note, but it doesn't come out. Maybe the flute can help you, and then the ghost tone will come out. What I'm doing is this. I take the international Moise B, right? And I try to glissando into the B, and on the way there's kind of an interplay between the flute and the mouth. If this is just whistling, I don't think so. If this is just flute playing, I don't think so. It's a little bit ghosty, kind of a mixture. So maybe you want to go for the B. Okay, if you hear the car window, you have too much air, less air. Okay, if you happen upon a tone and you're not sure if it's a whistle tone or a ghost tone, a whistle tone will break away when you change the pitch. Just a minute. Your whistle tone will break away when you change the pitch, when you move your tongue, when you change the resonance room. The ghost tone will go with you. So let me show you this. I could change this note, right? This is the whistle tone. When I try to manipulate it, it will break away. And the whistle tones are a little bit too high, and probably the ghost tones are a little bit too low because your tongue is not up to speed, and you can pitch it a little bit higher. So usually if it's a little bit too low, it's a ghost tone, and if it's too high, it might be a whistle tone. Yes?
How is the airspeed different from those two, you think?
It's a little bit higher.
More for the ghost tone?
Yeah, for the ghost tone I can give a little bit more, and I play the ghost tones on the middle register and not on the high register. So this is the whistle tones. I should breathe out first because I'm going to use so little air. And this. And this is how big my mouth is. This is a C sharp, like this. Sometimes I get a C and I practically never get the B. But then that's okay. The good thing is with the ghost tones, I can change my key clicks or my air thing and still keep the pitch. There are some intervals that are easy, like if it's a fifth, it's very good, the thirds work. Sometimes the minor works better than the major, sometimes the major works better. Minor seconds, really hard. So that's how I came upon these. So there can be, I could play Stairway to Heaven. That's how it all started. Okay, so
Ever
that's
just play the head joint and not the body of the flute with the.
never tried. I love this in workshops. Somebody says, "Can you put your head through this?" And I was like, "Okay, let's try." Okay, that's like the resonance of the note that's there.
Maybe play with your finger at the end. I
Oh yes, you always can.
don't know. Just brainstorm.
There you have it.
I mean, that's a normal note.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with that. But I like the whole instrument, if that's okay. Okay, what else did I do? What else are you interested in? I mixed pizzicato and key clicks. The pizzicato I do is I use the upper lip. So I don't go p and I don't go t, but I go p. And there's no air flowing. This is one of the diving techniques. You stop your lung and you just go. There's no air going through.
So if you can't circular breathe, how do you not feel like hyperventilated all the time if you're doing that?
Well, I would feel hyperventilated if I would breathe a lot.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not breathing. I need to breathe after a certain time. I can't do this for 2 minutes.
I noticed you were.
But how long do you have? You have like
Yeah.
30 seconds at least. In music, that's a long time.
Did you switch up to a different technique and then circular breathe when you needed to at that point?
I think later on I played air sounds and started to circular
Yeah.
breathe, and then I took off.
Yeah.
And I never
Or
stopped.
take a breath.
Yeah. And then, I mean, when air is flowing, I can circular breathe.
Yeah.
If there's no air flowing, there's no way in. Okay, but you want to try pizzicati? I like them. Okay, I hear notes. That means you're giving air into the flute. There's no air into the flute. There's a German writer, he said, we need a word. We need a word for when you try to lift something and it's heavier than you expected. And he wanted to call it ha! So, that's the moment. That's better. That's better. Yes?
But no pitch, like no pitch or?
Oh, the pitch
Yeah.
is where you would want it to have to
Okay.
be. Okay, so if you do techniques that work with the pipe's resonance, and you're here, you have the same pitch. Right? If you go away from the flute, it gets higher, because this is about half a step. So with any technique where you're away from the flute, right? Or if you have a technique where you close it, then you're an octave lower and a half step too high. That would be a major 7. So that's an A flat, and that's the G. So as a rule of thumb, if something is wrong, probably it's going to be a half step higher, and maybe in the lower octave. Where were we? You were doing something. You were doing
that
the...
puff cheek thing. That was pretty cool.
Oh, would you like to know about slap tongue? Yeah, it means that you slap your tongue onto the embouchure hole. And this is the equivalent with the hand. And that's also a technique. You're getting confused always. So that's only up to the G, because then this hand would be needed here. So where are we? Yes, so you do the same with your tongue now. And it's as if you were throwing a very wet towel against against the wall, right? It's this. Do that. I want to see the tips of your tongue.
What?
And leave it there. It's like hitting the wall and it's sticking, stuck there. You hear this like kind of a ticking noise? Listen to this. That's the closing moment, and that should happen here. So now you put your mouth completely around on the mouthpiece. And the first we should learn now is jet whistle, which means I blow as much air as possible into the flute without hitting my teeth on the mouthpiece. And yes. Yes. Let's have an ensemble sound. Yes, nice. Okay, now you use this energy. This is quite moving, right? Your belly should shake here. So now you take this energy and you just ram your tongue between this airstream, into this airstream. And the tongue stays there. Don't take it off. It's really like a head-on collision. It's a collision and it gets stuck there. It's like sealing the flute. Close it. Your tongue should get stuck in the embouchure hole. Really like whoop in there. And that's a continuing sound. You could do jet whistle, slap tongue, and then reopen with energy. I saw a performance by a tuba player and a trumpet player, and they moved like machines. They sat down like this. If they wouldn't play, they would go down. They would breathe in very mechanically, and they would play without mouthpiece, and it would sound like a pressurized machine. It was wonderful 20 minutes. It didn't sound like didn't sound like human music. It sounded like something from the old days, from the steam days. So we could be in that piece. Right? I like that. Okay, can I send you home with this much instruction for this technique? Is that fine? Okay. Have I told you I have a book that's called The New Flute? And it has all these techniques, and it has a DVD that also explains most of it, and it has improvisational ideas. So I think that's the difference to many other very good books like Robert Dick's The Art of Flute, and there's like 3-4 like major works on the market that are dealing with modern techniques. And I think the difference is that in mine you get like little playful games how to start to get these colors into your flute playing. To me, all these things are like having a different tool when you're painting, or having a brush, or have different kind of textural devices and things that are pointy and things that are like windy. So I'm very much into these things, and I think they can be very enriching. It's not just about one note; it's about a whole language of different sounds. Good. What else?
Coming into the flute where you can hear two distinct lines.
Yeah.
Yes, singing and playing.
Because I've heard
Yes.
you do a little monk like that.
Oh yeah. Should I play for the others?
Yes.
Here's my key B flat. Okay, I got it. That's composed, right? That's arranged. Thank you. So where do you start? You try to play the same note as you're singing, you try to sing the same note as you're playing. And I would suggest first, you don't go for this Ian Anderson loud breaking up the flute thing, but you go for a very soft device that to me is like a Sharpie or so, like a felt pen. So maybe a little bit more flute. If you hear shaking, that means that you lost the pitch with your voice. You get something that's called an interference, the one wave from the one side and the one wave from the other side. They're interfering each other, and then you hear beating. Let me show you. Too much, huh? I thought it beats more. Have you heard resulting waves? There are waves that are produced in your ear when two pitches hit you, like. There should be one going up now, right? That's mathematics. Don't ask me why it goes up, but it goes in the other direction. And there is somebody, Gergely Itzesh. He's what's the country? It's not Bulgaria. Help me. The country of Janos Balint and Gergely Itzesh and Budapest is the capital. Hungarian. Yes, he's Hungarian. He's professor now at the Juilliard in China, and he composed a whole song that has two flutes, and there is a resulting wave as a third voice. Very, very interesting composer.
How do I spell that name? Sorry.
Itzesh, I-T-T-Z-E-S, and probably the S has some little thing somewhere.
I-T-T-S?
Z-E-S.
Z-E.
I-T-T-Z-E-S. Okay, where are we? Oh yes. Let's start with an E. Can you sing an E? Can you sing this note? Yes, Alex, you too. Try. Yeah, you did it. The other guys. It's much easier with a higher voice. And then, then take the flute. Probably your voice wants to go lower. So think up. Then your pitch will stay up. If you don't think up, your pitch will go down. It's even higher. Okay, so now if you can do this, probably you can find your way around the flute unisono. But I will go to the next step with you, which is you still think the E, and you just trick your flute, and you just do a B with your hands, and still you're thinking the E. So you're going E. B, not B flat. B. Sounds great. Okay, I can hear a good fifth now. Fifths are easy because the E comes from the flute, and no, you're singing the E into it, and the B is not disturbing because it is the fifth of that lower note. So fifths, octaves, that's pretty easy. So let's try the next step, which would be you go for a third. You go for the G. Think E.
It's okay, I don't know.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, sometimes singing is a little bit embarrassing at the beginning, but I mean, all of you have an inner voice. When you think music, probably this even moves with it. When you play the flute, maybe you know about Robert Dick's book, Tone Development Through Extended Techniques. There's a whole chapter on throat tuning. That's all very wise information, and it's very helpful. And probably, if you're instinctively doing that, going with your flute's voice, so to say, then the next steps will be kind of strange, because now the voice is independent. I'll take that E again, and I start to sing other notes. As a strategy for you, at the moment the flute sound breaks away, tongue it. You can make your flute easier. Just a second. Have a nice church, have a big reverb, and then just change the pitch once and you already have a nice piece. Question.
When you're singing, how are you thinking singing-wise? Like, is there a certain tone you're aiming for, like the singing portion?
Okay, you mean like if I have like a certain vowel that I think of? My mouth is as fluty as can be. So it's probably an O. Let me see. It's an U. I didn't know. So maybe it's a little bit smaller than this big flute tone embouchure, the flute tone cavity that I would have. Maybe it's a little bit smaller. Ooh. The tongue is a little bit further up, but I think that's private. That's just how I do it. If you come to a point where one of the two don't really work, just be clear about it that you are doing two things at the same time. So maybe your like super precise embouchure is a little bit too narrow to allow your singing note to come through. Maybe your sung tone is a little bit too small to maintain enough air to flute a note. So with both, you have to be a little bit more relaxed.
So
Wanna try?
sometimes it sounds like the flute is the drone and you're singing the melody line, and sometimes it's the opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
is possible.
Yeah.
So if I do this, I am singing the bass here, right? And the other way around. Right?
Yeah.
Now I have the flute as a bass. And you know what?
One-man band.
I have, yes, that's true. I have this ability to sing bass notes. Females do not. But you have at least a fifth, if not an octave higher than me. You could be singing Bach's air and play the bass on the flute in the original key. I cannot, because I can't even start with the first note.
Yeah, I have a tendency to, when I try to hum the same note that I'm playing physically on the flute.
Yes.
I can't do that right now because I have some touchable laryngitis, but
Okay.
it seems like rather than get a separate tone, I seem to want to like hum the same tone that I'm playing.
Yes, and that's a good strategy that
But
your
I
body
want-
is doing.
But I don't want to do that though. I
At
want
this
to-
moment, you don't.
Yeah.
When you play the flute normally, you can even tune or treble recorder, alto recorder. Any recorder. You could tune with the position of the back of your tongue and with your larynx and the resonating cavity, right? Like with the position of your larynx.
So, interesting story with that. I have vocal nodules because I sing in like choirs and such.
Yes.
And they told me the reason it wasn't healing is because I was tuning with my throat for the flute. So like apparently
Oh.
like if you get injured, you get a vocal injury, you should avoid throat tuning.
That sounds very weird to me.
Yeah.
Because throat tuning only means that you change the position and your larynx, what are they called here? Are they called labia? I don't know. The lips should be quite open for playing the flute.
Apparently it's
And
the
they shouldn't
force of
resonate.
air. It's the force of air going through it when it's already injured that
Okay.
slows the healing process.
Aha, okay. I don't know anything about that, but if you play the flute normally, the air should just simply pass the larynx. Maybe sometimes you hear elder people that start the flute, they will, like while playing, they will do things like, right? Because their body is used to, when they do something difficult, they're used to close up here. Like if you have an injury, you know, you close up, right? Or you try to lift something, like, you close up because that's helpful for you. So when they do something beautiful on the flute, this wants to help. It wants to help by closing, and it wants to help by singing along.
Yeah.
And for these people, it's very important not to sing. I had this with a young student, and we sang for like 2 weeks, and then we said, okay, then stop it now, and he would just stop. And the problem was gone. He could freely decide to go, or to go, you know? It's my decision when to switch it on. So sometimes it's good to try to do even more of what you want to stop, so you understand it better.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about...
I had to stop throat tuning, and I didn't know I was throat tuning.
Okay.
But then, like, when I stopped throat tuning, then I started healing, and they were like, "Yeah, you can't always throat tune when you're injured."
Okay, fine.
But it was like interesting.
It's very probable that these people know more about these problems. Okay, where are we? Is that your flute case?
Yes.
That's the longest flute case I've ever seen.
Well, as I told this young man here, that's when I have to get away in a hurry.
Get away.
Yeah.
Get
Okay.
away case.
Looks cool. Such a look.
That was a shy guy.
Okay, where are we? Singing and playing. The first thing is you play a note and you keep your fingers like this and you do the music with your inner voice. Let's do that. Just take the E and start to play any kind of nice melodies you like. Okay, keep your flute on the E. Keep the Okay, how do you feel? You want to turn it around? Okay, you have to think E now or E. And then you can change and play things with your flute, but your mind should stay on the E because you will immediately follow what you do on the flute. I'm using all the white keys, so to say, but I'm using an F sharp, so we are F minor. Good, very good. Did you just do that? Okay, so where you could go with this now is you take your favorite piece, you check out the bass notes, the harmonies, you write out a line, you try to sing these notes and play the melody, or you try to play these bass notes and you try to, did I just turn around or not? Well, you do it either this way or that way.
Yeah.
And now it's arranging, right?
Yeah.
Look for the right moment where you switch. Like in Blue Monk, I switched at a certain point because the other way around it wouldn't be that beautiful, or stuff like that. Find the right key for your voice. So it makes sense when you start to do this to go to the piano and find out, okay, where is my falsetto? How far can I go with my falsetto? Where is my bass? What range do I have? And then it's all, playful. You will see that if you start to work like this, after a while you will invent things. You will find things, or things will find you. And it's not anymore about the big bookshelf and what's in there and interpreting, but it's about creating anything you like at the moment where you are. And that's kind of my mission, to get people into that kind of state. So if you would like to start to improvise and you have never done that, take your phone, put it to half an hour, an alarm for half an hour, put it on mute, and turn it around. Be in a position where you can see the door, because if you go into the zone, somebody could really scare you just by showing up. So it's happened to me. It's always better to see the door, and probably you will go into a kind of insecure, bored state, and you will think, oh no, there's like 20 emails and there's like this and that, and I need to practice and I have this and that, and then you say, okay, Tilmann said half an hour. It's not the life. It's not 2 hours, because then you would stop, and it's not 2 minutes, because you need to get bored. You need to go into a state where you give up, where you say, okay, now I could also create now, and then probably the first notes will find you. And then I love to start with the rhythm. That's just because that's what I like most. So I'll just play a note, 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 something else, note, note, something, note, note, something, 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 note, note, note. So now I just showed you with my voice what I would do on the flute. And after some time, music would evolve, and then I find like a nice trill, or I find something, and then I go from there. And then, like, creating, improvising, composing, to me that's all the same soup, so to say. Just when I write things down so other people can play it too. And that has become kind of a new thing for me in the last decade. You could also do that. You could also commission works from me. It's always a challenge, and it's very beautiful because people come with certain wishes, and then I try to do that, and then something else kicks in, and then we see if it becomes a piece the person can play and stuff like that. So that's very nice. Singing and playing. That was that. And you can put rhythm into it. Are we here for flute boxing? You want to know about flute boxing?
Yeah.
Yes? Good. Okay. I mean, you happen to know, you know that Greg Patillo lives in this city, and he pushed this, and it's just wonderful what has happened, and so I'm also part of that. What we try to achieve is we try to do beatboxing sounds that were like a copy of the first beatbox machines that came up in the 80s, and lots of people couldn't afford these, so they would just use their mouth and do these sounds. And then we combine this with flute playing, and the beatboxing will become kind of an articulation. So that's a good way to look at it. And the first thing you have to know is 3 sounds, and that would be and k. And the first one is the bass drum, and it's a bit dry here. And the first one is the bass drum. It's almost like a p, as you're also like exploding your lips, but it's not from your air support. It's close here, and you press it out like you were doing. There can be a little bit like trombone embouchure in here.
No.
So maybe you want to start with the p. I think we're still working with air support. Close it up here, and as you can see, I'm kind of chewing it out with my chin and with my tongue. I'm hearing some. I think that's with air support too. You remember the German word for it? It's heavier than I could carry. It's closed here. Yes, better. Okay, you do the 1 and the 3, and I snap. Getting better. Okay, maybe a bit more pressure so it gets louder. You know, we're trying to simulate a drum that's this big. Okay, next one is the snare, and the first snare that I'm going to teach you is almost like our back articulation, the k, right? But we need a little bit of snake in there. So out of k, you should color it with a little bit of hissing. And it's really short. And this comes from here. Power. You're a little bit too relaxed. Can I have more? This is like the spine of pop music, of all rhythmically based. I mean, most of American popular music. Say again.
Is the sound like a treble, or you said that the other sound was
That was a bass. This is a snare.
snare?
Okay, if you look at the snare, it's a drum like this. It has a top felt and a low felt. And the low felt also has resonating metally things. It might be little spirals, or it even might be little pebbles on a, is that a pebble? Little, what is it?
Cymbals.
Say again?
It's like a chain?
Yes, it's a chain of little,
Like when you have that necklace that, like on
Yes.
dog tags, like
Yes.
that little.
and this resonates, and that gives it its sharp, distinct sound. And that's the loudest. It's the loudest in the music. If you hear music far away or in somebody else's earbuds or whatever, you will just hear something like. So this is like the pilot track in the music. Why is the pilot track on 2 and 4? Why is it not on the 1? In the German military, it would be on the 1. Because even the most stupid person could march in time and rhythm. And only on the bridges, we don't do that, because that's not good for the bridge. So the music would be very boring if the pilot track was on the 1. We want to shift around the 1. We want to do stuff with the bass drum. You know, I just did that when you did the snare. I 16th noted around with the bass drum. And still we need kind of an anchor. So the anchor is the 2 and the 4. The backbeat. You went to concerts and you clapped on the wrong beat. That's probably because the other people were informed about the backbeat, that it's not on the 1. You know this moment. I do. I remember. So, it has to be strong, it has to be short, and it's almost a flute articulation. Want to do it again? I do, and you do the snare, okay? Stronger, come on, give me a little bit more. Yes! And a little shorter. Nice. Now let's go for the hi-hat. In this case, the hi-hat is almost closed by the foot and is played with a stick, and it's very near to our T articulation. So put in a little bit of snake here too. And this can either be from with air support, sounds like this, or without. If you have fast music and you want to do 16th notes, I wouldn't do that from here. Okay. Now we have the first beat. You have heard this probably. It's either called Pizza Katze or Putze Katze. And that has all the 3 syllables. That's going to be our rhythm number 1, okay? Okay. I'll start. You go with me. You're getting a little bit faster. That's a very good sign. It means your body is saying, I can do this. Okay, shall we add a double bass drum? It's like this. Okay, very good. If we had more time, I would give you at least 5 more of these. Right. You see that the bass drum can be very playful. And in the end, right now we did this in straight 16ths, so to say. I could also shuffle this. So out of I could do and then I could do this, and it would be very cool. Right? Okay.
How does that change when you put your flute up to your face?
Yes. Want to do it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
How did it all start?
Yeah.
I forgot his name again. That's a pity, because it was a guy in London. My fantasy is that he borrowed the flute from his older sister. I don't know about that. But it kind of looked like that. He looked like a person that had put the fingers on there, and he knew how to do a D, and then he would beatbox wonderfully, and the flute would resonate, and once in a while he would play a C. And that was that. That was the start of it, right? And that now what we do is, we do our beatboxy things, and we just let the flute resonate. So this is how much it is, right? And you can already do melodies, right? You want to try? I just did D minor, so it would be all white keys. Just fool around on the whole flute wherever you want. Okay, I give you a rhythm.
The snare and the bass is the hardest
Yes.
for me
Yes.
to get that
Yes.
boom out of it.
Yes. To connect, we will connect the syllables now to flute playing. This was just using the resonance of the tube, which is a lot. You could do. That's already music.
Yeah.
But it's not real flute playing yet. So, International Moise B, let's do one bass drum with the flute here, flute at the lip, and after that you have a short break, and then you play your normal B without articulation, because the bass drum is supposed to become the articulation. So get the experience how different your embouchure is after the P, and then go to your embouchure and play the note. Go ahead. Okay, I hear some high frequencies, right? I hear these notes. That means you're pushing air. For the few milliseconds of doing the bass drum, you should not push air into the flute. So it's still closed, and after that I open up and play the note. Okay. This has taken me quite some time too. This is something to take home and experience and experiment, and then get better at. Right? I will show you all three of them now, because it's not the same level of difficulty. This is really hard. It feels like a huge intervention of flute playing for a few milliseconds. Right? I have tried to form my bass drum into a sound that makes it possible, that is almost like my flute embouchure. So I went to, so this is almost, there's a shortcut now to the flute playing.
Yeah.
So that I can go like this, and now it's a metamorphosis, or it's something that you can shorten up until it melts together, until it links. So this could take a day or so. Wait, please.
Yeah.
Now it's part of it, right? Now I can play things. That was ambitious. Maybe start. If you need exercises, right behind you, you can see all my books. The yellow one, called Flute Beatboxing, has exercises. Each of the sounds get their own exercises, and because it's growing in difficulty, I took the liberty to put different metals to the different levels, so there will be a brass, well, what is it? Bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, yes. And the platinum stuff is great fun. The other stuff too. But you can have a whole page that just has and it's nice melodies, and there will be one cliff somewhere where you have to do many of them. But it's a good training. When I wrote the new flute, that was very expensive for my publisher. We did the DVD. We did it in 2 languages. It's in English too, and it could have become a brick on the shelf. You never know. It's a big thing to bring something like this onto the market. So after that, I said, I'll just write a book with music. It's easy for you. You just print it and you sell it, and we're friends. Okay, so this was like the exercise book to the new flute, where all the techniques are explained. Okay, so now this has a lot of air pressure, right? And I don't want to have a sound here, so I let out the air somewhere over here, because it has to go somewhere. If I don't do that, I will always have a sound. So I'll just do this, in a clown-like manner. Now that's too much, right? It can become less and less. sometimes there are some overtones in there, and let's just call it the rock and roll of it. It doesn't have to be super perfect, right? This is not a Baroque interpretation. It's not about the note itself. It's about doing two things at the same time. We're juggling heavy, big things here, beautiful things. So, and also, at the moment you do your articulation, there is no sound. It's not like there is a drum machine playing at the same time as you're playing the flute, but it is disturbing the flute melody, but people associate and connect music. It just seems like a note. It seems like a melody, and that's enough. So. Right? It still feels like a melody. Good. We have a lot on the plate. If you want to do circular breathing, we have to start to get the straws and the cups out now. Shall we do that? Or any last question?
Kind of cover it.
Okay, maybe I should tell you, and that's also that's the same for circular breathing. I would say make projects make it a 100-day project. If you go home to circular breathe or to flute beatbox now, and you can't do it the first night, that's just what it is. It wouldn't be as impressive if everybody could do it, right? So 100 days is a very good time. I had a student in Bogota, and he did whistle notes and ghost notes for 1 month, and boy, that was so beautiful what he could do after 3 months. 3 months is not much. It's still summer, and you can do it. Okay. Where do we go? So first thing, we will be really sporty, okay? We will do the whole ride in 20 minutes. The first thing you do is this. Can you breathe in and out through your nose? So this means that that the air in your mouth is not linked to your breathing apparatus. You can do something with that air. In the end, you will play the flute with that air. Right now, all you do is bubble. It's not necessary to blow the cheeks. You can use your tongue, and with the tongue, you do bubbles like this. And it doesn't even have to be much longer. Let's call it, I'm chewing out. Imagine you had your mouth full of water, and you're pushing the water, in this case the air, through the straw. That would be this. So, what you need to do now is breathe in with your nose at the same time. You have to overcome a reflex. You have never asked this from your body before. You could run up the flight of stairs here, eat a piece of croissant, and laugh about a joke and not die. Because you can do all these things at the same time, and each of you as a kid have breathed in a drink, right? That's very painful. So that's what happens if the management makes a mistake. So you have a very clear regimen, how to deal with closing your lung, and you have never spitted something out and breathed in at the same time, because you would never need that up to now. So you're just with your tongue, you're pressing out a little bit of air. You can make it easier by squeezing the straw, because then you have more resistance. We have a
I
winner?
think I did it, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me give you one more exercise, which would be you empty your lung, like you fill your cheeks, and while breathing in you do this. And you don't stop the breath intake. That's fighting against the reflex. Do that without the fingers then. And you can do this several times. If you're on the bus and somebody sits with you that you don't like, you can do this and the person will go away. You can also do the bass drum. You see what I talked to you about, like going a little bit inwards? The best would be if I wouldn't say anything for 10 minutes and then you would all come out with this. So this is if you do it at the same time and with the noise. That would be without the straw. This just sounds much nicer. Sorry?
It's making me dizzy.
Okay, then stop for a while. You're already one step further.
I'm just doing it with my tongue, though.
Yes, yes. You use your tongue like a piston, right? It's like moving up and pressing the air out. It's getting there, right?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Something to me resisting it.
I think there's no reflex program for this. It's really a new combination of movement. And let's say you should be able to do this in the first hour. And I think I will let you try for some more minutes because it's just so exhilarating when you have it. Bloop, sniff at the same time. Maybe you want to look at what I do from the side and maybe by copying it. If you want to try more, but you could look. I'll do this just like 50 times. With a little bit more resistance. I can hear it. I think you have it. Right? Yes.
So,
You see? Another minute and it will be at least 50-50. There's a hardcore way, which would be you fill your mouth with water and you go to the sink and you spit it out and you try to breathe in with the nose.
Otherwise,
It is very likely that that you will try to breathe in water. So that should be really just the last resort. What you can, like, if you imagine spitting out water like this, and then you try to breathe in at the same time, that could also help. Okay, where to go from this? You do this once, and then you try to continue with normal bubbling. And then if you do that, you have a break, because it's just an exercise to link. So you go back to normal breathing. The good thing with the straw and the bubbles is that you can see if you do it, right? You can see if there's a bubble or not. I taught this to a very ambitious Italian once, and in the evening we would all sit together and drink beer, and he would get a straw and he would do this with his beer. And then he knew he got it, and he sat there like, and it bubbled and bubbled and went everywhere, and everybody was cheering.
Do you wait until you have no air left to rebreathe, or do you do it before you're out?
Yeah. Now we are about managing circular breathing. I do very small gulps,
Yeah.
and I do them like if I play music, I try to do it while there is movement in my fingers. So my first pieces were all trill pieces, because in the beginning, when you're on the flute and you're doing it, it will sound like right, because you have to do pressure management, understand how much you need, how much air you need from your mouth to maintain the note. And then you have to learn to link again after the circular breathing. And the air moves slower in the mouth or it feels slower than you think. And still you don't have a lot of time. You have like half a second. So I would do something like that. I mean, 200, 300 milliseconds is enough for a quarter of your lung. You do 4 of these and you're all set. Now, probably if you're completely full and you breathe on top like this all the time, it's also not good.
Yeah.
So maybe it's wise to breathe out sometimes. This is breathing in. This is out.
Like double.
At least it's good to learn this,
Yeah.
because also there's a certain moment when you circular breathe, you're under stress, because you think, I need to make it, and you go like this, and then you're up here, and it's wise to learn how to also get relief and to relax again. So maybe for some time you want to lean against the wall with your back. Maybe for some time you want to do the afro-tau. Just to be in a different position. Maybe you want to move around and not get stuck, you know? So we went like 3 chapters ahead. So how is this going? Oh. I can't see anything. You don't want me to see anything? Yes? Can you breathe in louder so I can... That's it. I think you did it. Looks good from here. Can you breathe in louder?
It's not working yet.
Sorry?
It's not working yet.
It's not working yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to use my tongue as a piston while I'm breathing in.
That's exactly it. Squeeze it out and sniff it at the same time. Did you know that there is a comic about this by Pierre-Yves Artaud? I learned it from him ages ago. And it's a 4-page comic, I think published with Leduc or something. And it has this alors, sniff, toot. It has all these things explained in very nice graphics. It's not that complex. It doesn't need huge books. It just needs a lot of self-awareness and understanding. And be nice to yourself. If it doesn't work in the next 20 minutes, it might take another hour, but you should be able to do this. It's clearly it's not a trick that you need to be gifted for. It's really something that the first step to overcome this, not to overcome, but to learn a new movement pattern. That's probably highly irritating because you're adults and you haven't done that for like 20, 30 years. So that's just something very new to you. And from circular bubbling to the flute, that could take a few days. And until you can't hear anything, that takes a year. That sounds long, right? And it sounds like it's a lot of work for something very small. I can tell you that there are many playing situations where I'm just better off doing it. And there are many playing situations where I need to reel in the audience. It's like an exhibition opening. Somebody has said words, everybody drinks wine, and everybody is just beautiful and wants to communicate and to network. And then there's this guy with the flute. I have to get these people. And I play one note and it's irritatingly long. And suddenly they're with me. And then I start to do music because it's just a trick. It's not music yet. Right?
Do you feel like once you learn how to do it, you can always do it again? Or if you learn it and then don't use it very often, you have to retrain?
It's like with everything. If you will have a rest of understanding, but it needs training.
Yeah.
If you've done this for a year, or if you've done this for 100 days, probably you can't lose it anymore.
It's probably like bicycle riding.
Yes.
Once you learn how to ride a bike, and you stay off it a while, you may be a little rusty, but you still can.
Yes.
So that's the concept I have here. Once I get it, it's like, well, how come I never could do it? Because I can do it now. But not yet. I'm not there yet.
Yes.
It's almost like the experience I had when for a period of time I was studying the Persian flute. And,
Oh, nay.
Yeah, the nay.
Oh, and even the Persian version that goes there.
And it took me weeks to
Yes.
But then once I got it, it was almost like second nature.
Okay.
It was almost like I could always do it.
Yeah.
It was like a door that was closed.
I'm not there yet.
Open.
I have such a flute, and it's still a complete mystery to me.
Yeah.
Like if the embouchure is not here, but it's here, that's just very weird to me. And I have this. I have people go, "Come on, it's not hard." And they go like, "Dude," and I'm like, "Yes, that's it's nice for you." You had a question?
Oh, it's just, I always wondered, is it very similar to what we do when we're just talking, very incessant talking? Are we actually using nasal breathing
Well,
to just keep it going?
I believe the problem is you're used to closing with the back of your tongue. You're closing up your breathing organs whenever you manage something with the mouth. Whenever you have something in the mouth that needs to be chewed or that needs to be swallowed, you need to close it there. I remember when my first daughter had her first food, it seemed like she would suffocate because she didn't know these things. So she would have something in her mouth, she would go. She wanted to eat, but she didn't know yet. Just something touched the back there and she didn't know what to do. So that's something we all learned. And we are so efficient with this now that we never ever think about it, that we shouldn't breathe in a croissant. We don't need to think about it, right? So that means that this is settled so well that now suddenly you have to allow yourself to breathe in while you're managing something with your mouth. So you need to be able to do this spitting thing, this pressing out something, and allow yourself to breathe in. And if you can do this synchronously, synchronously, if you like, I don't know, at the same time, then you can take it from there. You just have to link this to your normal bubbling. Normal bubble, one process, normal bubble, one, do the process, bubble on, and then you can do it. And also, you know, stay and bubble. You have lots of time and then just do it once. That's that. You can win bets with a straw. In Portugal, I won a beer. I said I will bubble longer than you need for pouring that beer.
Are these your flutes as well, the big
Oh
ones?
yes, I haven't played any
I
low
know.
flutes. Right. If you want to put this onto the flute, the first thing again would be chew out a note. This is just played like I'm with the bubbling. This is just played with my mouth. And I'm using the D because it resonates best. Maybe you even want to try a higher note because the more resistance you have, the easier it might be. There's nothing here. It's only up here. And then try it at the same time. Then you link this moment with normal playing. And you might experience a gap there. And that's because, and you might experience an articulation. Because the back of your tongue has to open up the throat again for the normal playing. And that sounds like a G. And at the beginning it's a K, and then it's a G, and then it's a Ng. At a certain time you don't hear it anymore. That's a metamorphosis. It will take some time. I think that's really something that takes some time. Now, do you remember when you played only one octave and your whole music book had just a lower octave? You could have stayed a low octave person. You could have said, I don't need more because there's nothing more in the book. You decided for the second octave, and then you learned the third octave, and up to that point you were playing for like 2-3 years. So it didn't scare you at that time that maybe learning something on the flute would take years because you didn't look ahead. So please don't look ahead now. It's a wonderful device. It's a wonderful musical device that can take you to a kind of flute playing that you haven't done before. And for me now, when I'm under stress, when I have Lampenfieber, when I have the butterflies, because there's only flute players in the audience, I start with circular breathing. Because it's like I have to be on the track, and it's like the thing is moving and I'm keeping the music alive, and I don't have time for, where am I? I'm shaky. You know, I don't have time for that. And that it even now it helps me, it makes playing easier for me at a certain level. And then you try to play your first, okay, maybe it sounds like this in the beginning. You see also my body goes like this, so I try not to do that. And then I train away the articulation. And if I don't want to concentrate on it too much, I'll have some trills going and you won't hear anything. So if I do it like this, and I mix this up with some nice trills, you can almost not hear it. You could say that's my style. Right. I'm sorry we can't go much deeper because it's a process and it's a long thing, but I think you have an idea.
Yeah.
And I can see that some of you might take the straw home, right? Good. So, shall I play some contra?
Amazing.